Okay, hi everyone. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Julia Klein and I'm an Energy Corps intern with the Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow. On our team is Adam Flint, our Director of Clean Energy Programs, and Eli Conlin, our Sustainable Energy Coordinator. I'm also joined tonight by Emily Lowe, Lauren Marshall, Alex Martone, and April Ransom, the other Energy Corps interns. HeatSmart Southern Tier is just one of the programs that NEST has to offer. NEST is a nonprofit organization located in Binghamton that works with community partners to generate social, environmental, and economic justice and equity in the greater Binghamton area. As part of our mission, NEST strives to catalyze new initiatives, as well as doing outreach and education to support the growth of a stronger and more resilient Southern Tier. As you can see here, we have many different programs such as Southern Tier Solar Works and Binghamton Community Power, but today we will be talking about HeatSmart Southern Tier. Here's the overview for our presentation today. Feel free to put any questions that come up during the presentation in the chat or unmute during the Q&A. So first off, what is HeatSmart Southern Tier? This program is one of several NYSERDA campaigns that connects the public with local experts who offer clean energy technologies. NYSERDA is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and they have several clean energy programs. HeatSmart is one of these programs. They're supporting communities across New York State and implementing community-based outreach and education programs for clean heating and cooling. HeatSmart Southern Tier specifically works to educate the local community on sustainable heating and cooling through webinars like this and tabling events. As you can see at the bottom of this map, HeatSmart Southern Tier operates in Broome, Tioga, Shenango, and Delaware counties. So let's take a look at where we stand now in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. This diagram shows the primary source of greenhouse gas emissions in New York State. As you can see, heating and cooling buildings accounts for 32% of emissions. It's our aim to reduce this proportion by promoting and enabling people to switch off of fossil fuels and onto more efficient, clean energy technologies. Some of the biggest draws to participating in the HeatSmart Southern Tier program are the individual benefits, such as reducing your energy costs and increasing your home comfort and safety. You can also make a positive contribution to your local and broader global communities by helping reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote more awareness about the importance of clean energy. Here at NEST, we work with different municipalities across the Southern Tier on becoming clean energy communities. This is a program run by NYSERDA that gives incentives to municipalities who make clean energy and other sustainable improvements. Communities earn points with each action that they take, which add up to awards such as grant money. The technologies we promote mainly deal with weatherization and heat pumps. The goal of weatherization, such as insulation or air sealing, is to protect your home from the outside elements in order to maximize energy efficiency. Heat pumps are technologies that provide renewable and efficient energy that you can use for heating and cooling your home. The kinds that our program focuses on are ground source, air source, and heat pump water heaters. All of our installers are competitively selected and NYSERDA approved. Our installer partners are here with us tonight, and we would be happy to connect you with them after the presentation if you are interested. I'm now going to pass it on over to April to talk about weatherization.
Thank you, Julia. So the first step, if you were to go through our HeatSmart program, is weatherization. Weatherization is the practice of protecting a building and its interior from the elements and modifying a building to reduce energy consumption while optimizing energy efficiency. If you're going to get a heat pump, it's important that you ensure that your home is properly insulated first, because heat pumps work most efficiently in properly insulated homes. This graphic, it's on the screen now, helps to show why having a properly insulated home is key to energy efficiency. Leaks will tend to occur in areas of a home where insulation is lacking, which is why having a tighter seal around your home will save you from using and spending more on energy. The arrows throughout this house depict the most common places where there is air leakage. Warm air often leaks out of your home through ducts and spaces in your attic, as you can see it through the red arrows on the diagram. And outdoor air can also leak into your home through vents and spaces in your basement, shown by the blue arrows on the diagram. Weatherization combats these issues of air leakage. And if you have any concerns about temperature regulation, ventilation, air quality, or you're dealing with moisture problems, it might be a good idea to look into weatherizing your home, whether you're getting a heat pump or not. There are many benefits to weatherization. This includes increasing home safety and home comfort. If your home is properly weatherized, it will help reduce drafts, improve humidity control, improve indoor air quality, and reduce the risk of ice dams. I'm sure we've all noticed the bad air quality because of the Canadian wildfires, so air quality is definitely important now. Weatherization will also help reduce energy consumption and costs. With tightly sealed homes, there's a low chance that any heat will leak out of your home and that unwanted cool air will infiltrate your home. And overall, weatherization makes your home more comfortable to live in and more energy efficient. And this brings us to heat pump technologies. Heat pumps are an alternative system for heating and cooling your home. While traditional systems will use fossil fuels, heat pumps use electricity and offer a more sustainable way to heat and cool your home. So you might be wondering how a heat pump works. This graphic here provides a visual of how air flows through this type of system. If you have a refrigerator or an air conditioner, you already have this technology in your home. There's heat all around us in the air and in the ground, even during the winter. Heat pumps transfer heat into or out of a space instead of burning fossil fuels to produce heat. So there are three types of heat pumps that we're going to be covering tonight. There's ground source, air source, and water heaters. Ground source heat pumps, as well as heat pump water heaters, can be used to heat domestic water. So the first type of heat pump that we're going to be going over is ground source. Ground source heat pumps are also known as geothermal. About 6 feet below the ground, it's a very stable temperature, and geothermal systems circulate fluid in pipes below the ground and transfers the warm energy from the ground into this fluid. Heat is then concentrated through electricity and compression and is then circulated through your home. During warmer months, it works in reverse, transferring warm air into your home back into the ground. As you can see, there are two types of closed loops ground source heat pumps. There are horizontal loops and vertical loops, with horizontal loops being more common as it is more affordable to install. This is because the coils are closer to the surface and it will require less digging. To know what type is best for you and your home, it is important to get an energy assessment first before trying to start any work. So there are many benefits to ground source heat pumps, including the positive effect on the environment, your energy bill, and your home. This system is very efficient in heating and cooling your home, which means lower energy bills, and it's also long lasting. It removes fossil fuels from your home, and it can heat water in addition to heating your home. The other type of heat pumps are air source heat pumps, which work similarly to ground source heat pumps, but they take heat in from the air and pump it into your home. These are typically a ductless system and do not require underground pipes like the ground source heat pump. This allows for easy and quick installation. Air source systems consist of one outdoor unit, which is linked to one or more units inside of your home. These units come in various styles, as you can see here, and can fit different aesthetics and cost preferences. They operate similarly to an air conditioning unit. However, they also run in reverse to provide heat. So similar to ground source heat pumps, air source heat pumps allow for energy savings. Air source heat pumps are also very flexible because you do not have to replace your entire heating system if you don't want to. This allows for zone control in your home. You can just get 1 or 2 heat pumps and use them for just a couple of rooms. This can allow you to have air conditioning without duct work and to maintain different temperatures in different rooms in your home. You can also get a full heating system replacement if you would like, but it's not necessary. Lastly, these heat pumps are known to be very quiet. The last technology we're going to cover tonight is heat pump water heaters. The heat pump technology that we've been discussing can also be used to heat water. Heat pump water heaters are basically an electric water heater with an air source heat pump on top. They use indoor air to heat the water and usually have a backup system to meet high demands. There are also many benefits to using heat pump water heaters, including greater efficiency and dehumidification for your home. Now I'm going to pass this over to Eli to go over incentives and financing.
Thank you, April. Yeah, so I'll be taking it over now and talking to you about the incentives and financing for this program. So NYSEG and RGE customers are offered a variety of incentives for heat pumps. This chart here shows you several tax rebates that exist for heat pumps. Don't worry about trying to read all the different things here. We'll be sending you a copy of the slides and a recording of this presentation so you can see it much more clear for yourself. But I'll just take you through that. On the left, you have your different technologies. In the center, you have a description of what the rebate is. And on the right, you have eligibility requirements for the different project you're doing or what you're trying to install. For instance, if you were doing a partial installation of a heat pump, and this always varies per installation, so these numbers may be subject to change. So you should always be talking to your installer when you're going over your project, as things always vary with market supply and such. But if you're doing a partial load or a partial project for a heating pump and you were doing installation, you can get up to $500 per outdoor unit. However, the unit would be have to up to date for HEAP standards and things like that. In addition to these tax credits, there are also, in addition to these rebates, there are also several tax credits. For instance, there is a federal tax credit for your air source heat pumps, which gives you up to $2,000 per project that you're doing. If you were to do a ground source heat pump, you can get up to 30% of the material costs for this federal tax credit, as well as for heat pump water heaters, you can have up to $2,000. There's also a state tax credit for the ground source heat pumps. That's 25% of project costs or up to $5,000. However, these numbers are subject to change with the Inflation Reduction Act. So as like I said, with the rebates, you always want to be in a constant flow of communication with your installers to be sure that you are up to date about what programs you can have. In addition to these tax credits, there's also the 25C Residential Energy Efficiency Tax Credit. It's quite a mouthful, but it's also very helpful. It covers 30% of material costs for installation, which is up to $1,200. This credit is not a lifetime credit, it's an annual credit. So if you're looking at your project and you want to do maybe your attic and your basement for one day or for 1 year, and then you wanted to revisit this project and then did your living room and your kitchen, for instance, you'd be able to break it up into chunks and get the $1,200 credit each year that you did that. This also covers the 30% of your project costs for heat pumps up to $2,000. So you can get 30% on material for installation and 30% of project costs up to $2,000, making this credit an annual credit of up to $3,200. It's a pretty good deal. So there's a couple of loan options to finance this. There's 2 loans that are offered through NYSERDA, and there used to be 3, but the 3rd loan had been taken away. And so the 2 loans that are offered by NYSERDA are the Smart Energy loans, which can be financed up to $25,000 with terms of 5, 10, and 15 years, with an interest rate of either 3.49% or 6.99%, depending on what you qualify. The second loan that's offered is the on-bill recovery loan, which has the same conditions as the Smart Energy loan. However, this loan is paid back onto your utility bill over time. In addition to NYSERDA bills, or in addition to NYSERDA loans, yes, sorry, I'm in a crowded room. So in addition to the NYSERDA loans, there's also the, you can also go to the manufacturer that you're using, and that way you can get the loan. Or if you wanted to secure a loan from your local bank, you can also do that if your interest rates are also competitive. So in addition to the tax rebates that we just talked about, there are also income qualified programs that we have to offer. The first income qualified program that I'll talk about, income qualified program that I'll talk about is the Assisted Home Performance Program. As you can see from here, the household size is the different income levels that vary, and you can do the different monthly incomes. And what the program is that if you qualify for it, you get 50% off of your project costs, which is a limit of up to $5,000 if you're a single family and $10,000 if you're a multi-unit family, like 2 to 4 units. What this program covers is heat pumps and weatherization. And to qualify, your household income must be under 80% of the area median income for that county. In addition to the assisted home power, there's the Empower New York income qualified program. This program, this can provide you a completely free installation up to $10,000 if you qualify for it. This would be for both heat pumps and weatherization. And to qualify, your household income must be under 60% of your state median income, or you'd have to reside in a GEO eligible location, which means that the area that you live in have a certain percentage of households that already qualify for the program. So it's just a blanket coverage for your house as well. The other stipulation that you need for this program is that you also must pay your own NYSEG utility bill. We also wanted to include some information about energy audits. So there are 2 main types of energy audits. There's a residential energy audit, which you can get from an installer, which is free for anyone. But this doesn't include any of the diagnostic testing or the tools that can be used. This is more of like a visual inspection where someone will come inside, look around your home, see if there's any like cracks or places that airflow may be going. Or you can get a full energy audit, which does include diagnostics, but market rate customers must pay a fee for this service. However, there is a benefit for customers that are low to moderate income, which can get this service for free. However, if you're going to get it for free, you'd have to first fill out a joint application with an installer and have an energy efficiency or heat pump project already completed, so that the installer that's coming in, or the person that's coming and doing the audit, has something to test the diagnostics against. So if you're interested in anything that we discussed tonight, I'll take you through the general steps that you would do after this to participate in our HeatSmart Southern Tier program. So first, we'd sign you up for an energy assessment. And after signing you up, we'd go through, first we'd sign you up for an energy assessment through this site and have an assessment from a HeatSmart Southern Tier installer. And then you'd receive a quote for energy improvements. Afterwards, you'd apply for incentives and financing. Once you do that, you'd sign a contract for your desired systems, and then you'd have the complete installation work. We're happy to sign up anyone tonight if you wanted to start now, but remember, there's no commitment necessary. In addition to our HeatSmart Southern Tier program, we also have our low to moderate income community shared solar for the Southern Tier project. And so essentially what community solar is it is a subscription solar farm, or is a subscription to a remote solar farm, which allows people access to solar energy if you without actually installing the panels onto your roof. This is really good if you have a lot of barriers to installing solar panels on your house. For instance, if you live in a very shady area, maybe you've been told that your roof doesn't face the right way. If you can't afford actual cost of installation, which can be pretty pricey, then this is a great project for you. Like I said, there are several benefits to this program. One of the main top tier benefits about it is that you receive immediately 20% of annual savings on your NYSEG bill. which is a fantastic deal. On top of that, there's no fees to join or leave, so free to sign up, free if you want to cancel. And you also are supporting locally produced renewable energy. You're supporting green jobs in your area, helping stimulate the economy. And so what we're doing right now is helping you guys pre-enroll, and to reserve your spot. There are a few requirements to sign up. The first is that you must pay your own NYSEG bill. And the second is that your household income must be under 80% of the earned median income based on your county of residence. Same as the HeatSmart Southern Tier program, there's no commitment necessary for this. So free to sign up, free to find out. This chart here gives you the household size and the different income limits per household size that is the threshold to be in this program. And lastly, we just wanted to share with you an exciting new event that we're having to host this September. It is our Greater Binghamton Clean Energy Career Summit. We're hosting it in person in the Binghamton Doubletree Hotel. That's 225 Water Street in Binghamton, New York. We're having a career summit, which is from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. There will be a luncheon during that. There will be guest speakers, keynote speakers, different panelists. It'll be very exciting. We will also have a job fair from 4 to 6:30 p.m. And that'll be also very intuitive and very important to go to, and also just a lot of fun to hear about and learn about the different jobs in our community. If you want to register, either let us know in the chat or scan this QR code. Yeah. And so now I will turn it over to Adam for our Q&A session. But before we did Q&A, I wanted our, maybe we can do a little introduction to our installer partners that were so gracious to spend their time with us today and give us to this webinar. So yeah, if you guys wanted to maybe introduce yourself before we did Q&A.
Why don't we start with Leah Daly from Daly Electric, and then move on to Kevin Sedgett from NP Environmental. And Emily, if you could take down the slide, that'd be great.
Hi, my name is Leah. I am from Daly Electric. We are located in Penn Yan. We are doing the geothermal for Southern Tier, pretty much from Vestal West, kind of that part of the Southern Tier. We have there's about 25 of us, and we have about 2 teams of geothermal installers that do both hydronic and forced air systems. We are primarily water furnace dealers and net zero for our hydronics. And we welcome any questions or interest in geothermal in the area.
Kevin, you're up.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin. I'm a field engineer with NP Environmental. My position covers the assessment of your home for a system, the quoting and initial design, the final design, all of the engineering and design work into the system, the contracting process, and I share a portion of the project management. NP Environmental is all heat pumps. So everything that that Nest covered here tonight: heat pump water heaters, air source heat pump, ducted and ductless, geothermal, both forced air and hot water based. We cover all of that. We're design build start to finish for the projects. We work well with a couple of different insulation partners to help coordinate those needs as well. So going through the Nest program, getting set up with ourselves or any of the contractors is a good program and a good way to make big strides in your house. NP has been around since 2004. Yeah, like I said, we're all heat pumps. So happy to answer any questions this afternoon. Happy to come out and offer assessments, and look forward to talking with some of you. Thank you.
Jess, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess, and I work for the Insulation Man. We've been working with Nest for several years now, and I've been working with them for the last 3. We provide our customers with insulation, air sealing, and of course the energy audits. Our main focus is weatherization and home performance. And before I pass it over to Scott, I do want to make one small correction when it comes to the residential energy audit. Due to funding changes in NYSERDA, we will no longer be implementing any kind of charge for the diagnostic testing. So everybody, regardless of what income range they're in or if they qualify for a program or not, is all going to get the same audit with the same diagnostic testing. So I'm really happy to actually be able to announce that.
Thanks, Jess. My name is Scott Arnold. I'm the owner and founder of Rycor HVAC. We're located in New Paltz, New York. We have another branch in Albany or Saratoga, New York, and opening a third branch in Buffalo currently. So we cover a pretty big footprint. What we do is heat pumps. We don't do anything but heat pumps. We're very much specialized in that arena. We do have 55 installers, and we convert about 8 to 10 homes a day out of our current location away from fossil fuels. We're full service. We do design. We have a comfort specialist that will come out to your home and do a free analysis. We do offer and facilitate financing, both in-house and through third-party lenders. We will show up on the day of the installation, decommission the legacy system if you wish. We very much specialize in handling all the rebates and paperwork to make it a kind of turnkey process. We will actually take all incentives that are available off of the invoice on your behalf and file for them on your behalf and wait to be paid them on your behalf, which greatly lowers your upfront expense. We would be happy to help answer any questions you may have. We'll stick around after the meeting. Look forward to chatting with you.
Thanks very much, everyone. So now we're turning it over to our audience. What questions do you have for us? You can either drop them in chat, or if you'd like to speak, just raise your hand and unmute yourself after I call on you. People are being shy tonight. So I'll say just a few more words about the community solar program. The project that we are promoting gives a 20% discount. The project itself is not yet to the construction stage, and so it's basically a waiting list, so that once we actually have a contract and are able to sign people up, folks will be there. We will contact you. There's zero obligation for getting on this list. However, you do need to qualify income-wise, and the qualifications are exactly the same as those on the assisted home performance slide, which we can throw up on the screen in a little bit. But I see that we've got some questions. We've got a question in the chat. Can any of the incentives be used for lighting? Are you talking about residential lighting, Chuck? And if that's the case, I believe the answer is no. Okay. I think, Alicia, you have your hand up. If you want to go ahead and unmute, and after that, we'll take Neil. And is it Alita? Yes, I thought I saw hands from Neil and Alita. Go ahead, Alicia.
Everyone, thank you for running this program, and a shout out to the Installation Man. We had a really great experience working with them for some projects at our house. Quick question, are any of the companies well equipped to answer a question regarding asbestos? My question is specific to, we weren't able to complete a full audit because there is some concern about asbestos taping on the ventilation, which renders the blower test and other things, not worthless, but they couldn't be completed. Would remediation have to take place first? And if so, can any of the providers recommend a place to start with that?
I think that one's for you, Jess.
I believe it's Sunstream does the asbestos and the remediation in the area. I would have to double check on that, and I could send you an email on that tomorrow. That way, if anybody else has the same question. I grew up in Endicott, so I am very aware that a lot of the older EJ houses have asbestos tiles on them or asbestos somewhere on the property. So that would definitely be, I will get you a concrete answer on that, but I think it's Sunstream.
Okay, so I think a lot of people have chosen to put their questions in the chat. We have a question from Pat, who is a customer of the Delaware Electric Co-op. And yeah, I'm afraid it's the case that the NYSEG incentives would not be available to you. They do have a flat $1,000 incentive, which is not very competitive compared to NYSEG, but it's not nothing. We are planning on investigating whether there might be some incentives offered by any national co-op associations, but we don't know for a fact that that even exists. So at the moment, I'm afraid that's the extent of the incentives. I would say that as a DEC customer, that you're encouraged to talk with them and see if they might be interested in changing the incentive. Obviously, it's a small customer base, and so they have a lot fewer capital to draw on, but that is something that members can discuss. All right, let's see. We have, so this ended up being a direct message from Alita. If you have a working gas furnace, can you still get the NYSERDA rebate for air source heat pump? So I'm going to actually kick this one over to Scott. There's kind of a two-part answer to this, I suspect, but I'll let him go.
Sure, thank you for that, Adam. So the NYSERDA, the New York State Clean Heat, are you speaking about the new Clean Heat, New York State Clean Heat incentive? You think that's what we're referring to?
Yeah. And it's actually, just to be clear, Alita, the rebates used to be through NYSERDA, through the agency, and a year and change ago, it was transferred over so that each utility is administering the rebates.
Yes, that's correct. And there's a few tiers to the rebates as they currently are structured. Currently, there's 3 of them. There's what they consider partial.
Hey, Scott, sorry.
Yep.
She actually was referring to Empower.
Okay,
so that's a horse of a different color. Do you want to take that one, Jess?
Yeah, I'll take that. So my first question has to be, what kind of gas source are you running on? Are you running on natural gas, propane, kerosene, or fuel oil? Because the answer that you have will actually dictate the answer that I can give you.
She put natural gas in the chat again. It went direct to me.
Okay, so natural gas right now, it is very hard. In the year and a half that heat pumps have been part of the NYSERDA programs, I have not seen one go through on natural gas through our company. NYSERDA has very strict stipulations with that, and the majority of the reason is because out of all of the fuel sources besides electric, natural gas is actually the cheapest way to heat your house. That is something that they are working on amending, and that will end up being implemented into the programs. However, I can't tell you when. The only thing I could tell you is maybe to check back with me every so often to see if that incentive, has become more available to the natural gas customers.
Thank you very much. And actually, this reminds me of another question that may or may not be asked, but I'm going to answer it anyway. Since we've been talking about changes in incentives, you've seen there's a lot of them. And I'm afraid to say that's kind of the nature of the beast. So it's often not advisable to try to plan around what the state or federal government are going to do. In terms of the IRA incentives, the Inflation Reduction Act incentives from the federal government, we're likely to see those in effect in the new year. The majority of those incentives, but not all, will be income eligible incentives. That is, if you qualify for a program like Empower, which is for people who qualify for the HEAP, Heating Assistance Program, or SNAP. Some will have somewhat higher income levels. There's just so many things that need to happen on the state and sometimes federal level that haven't happened yet, that it's very, I think it would end up delaying a decision that you might want to make earlier. Obviously, it's entirely up to you if you want to wait and see what happens, but it's honestly rather challenging for those of us in the industry to keep a handle on the changes in these programs. And so it's even harder for customers, I think, to plan around them. So we have a question here from Chuck. Are there preferred brands of air source heat pumps? Well, there are certainly brands that our partners prefer. And Kevin, why don't you go first with this one, and then Scott?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't really speak to the brands that I don't offer. But I can say that we install at least 2 brands regularly for air source heat pumps and 2 regularly for ground source heat pumps. You know, I guess I wish I had a little more time to think about the question and really get to the base of, you know, what we value in our brands. Certainly efficiency, warranty, longevity. We work with great suppliers, which is huge for us. That's a real partnership that benefits not only us as a contractor, but ultimately rolls over to you as the customers, to have that support network. And when I do my assessments and I do an initial design and I select equipment appropriate for a home, I work with both Mitsubishi and LG, and you know, the costs are comparable, the efficiencies and performance are comparable. I still at this time get a slightly better warranty from Mitsubishi, but there's 2 product lineups that have slight variations where one may just be more appropriate for a home where a Mitsubishi of a certain size can only offer 3 indoor ductless units, but the LG can offer a 4th, and maybe the house needs that. So there's a lot of different variables that kind of set different brands apart. But ultimately, I mean, we definitely stand behind the ones we offer due to their longevity, reliability, performance, efficiency, and the support network that provides them.
So Scott, if you want to go next, and maybe you can field the question that came in the meantime from David, who's asking, can you speak to the efficiencies that air source systems are getting now?
Yeah, they've come so far, you know, and to Kevin's point, I really liked what he said about the relationship with the distributor, because a lot of times when you're buying a product from a professional, you are buying a relationship with the professional and the distributor. And a lot of times the relationship with the professional that installed it is supported by the distributor in the way of getting parts in a timely manner and being able to get the back end support to be able to offer you that world-class experience that you deserve when you shop, an air source heat pump with one of your professionals. So we are Mitsubishi only distributors. The efficiencies that we're seeing in these pieces of equipment these days are really something that a few years ago I would have just said would be impossible. There's new models coming out almost every year. And again, to Adam's point, I don't think it's ever smart to time the market and wait for the next new model, because when you're getting from, say, 36 SEER to 40 SEER on a ductless system, that extra 4 SEER or efficiency or the little HSPF gain that you might see in a room or a house is going to be a nominal kind of a difference. But
can you break down a little bit some of the jargon, Scott, in terms of what SEER represents and so forth?
So a SEER is a seasonal energy efficiency rating. Basically, the government had to put into place a way that consumers would be able to determine the efficiency of a piece of equipment they're buying, other than the comfort specialist saying, hey, this is going to be great, you're going to save a lot of money. Unfortunately, in every field, there can be good and bad. I mean, there are folks out there that recreate coach bags because there's a lot of gain in doing that. So there's deception and everything. So they've regulated the market and the efficiency in putting together a rating system for pieces of equipment. And they kind of earmarked certain levels of efficiency to be what would be qualifying for all these grant monies and rebate monies. And on the SEER end, and there's multiple different ratings you can look at, but on the SEER end, you have to be greater than 16 SEER. Now, unitary products like central products, it took a long time to kind of get there. Anything that's without ductwork, they coined that ductless or mini splits. Most of that equipment is going to automatically, just by default, pass that level of efficiency. I know in the Mitsubishi brand, it's the one I'm really familiar with. It's really hard to find a piece of Mitsubishi equipment that's less than 22 SEER. I mean, they're getting up to 36 SEER, which is just drop the mic levels of efficiency. You could realize in a home going from a traditional 10 SEER system, central air that you'd put in 10 years ago, to a new high efficiency 36 SEER type of a setup, single zone ductless systems. You could recognize a 40% savings or upwards. I've heard stories of 80% in savings in a home, burning fossil fuel and essential air versus a new ductless, high efficiency inverter driven system. The main change that really you want to look for in a heat pump that you're going to know you're getting a good piece of equipment is going to be an inverter type of a technology. Inverters have given heat pumps the ability to kind of acclimate to the room and the ambient temperatures around the house, and always operate at a different level of performance to kind of obtain the maximum amount of efficiency for you. So you're not overshooting targets or undershooting targets and getting inrush starts because the compressor is just starting really quickly instead of slowly building up to what the need of the room is. So you make this inverter technology with like a sensor. I think that Kevin might have spoken to that can actually detect the room and see what the changing temperature is visually with like a 3D scanning device. And it really helps the system with potentiometers of the misters to be able to regulate the electrical consumption and the heat or cooling output and optimize the current situation so you can save the most money. But yeah, the SEERs and the HSPFs and the EERs are double what they were just 5 years ago, and they continue to climb.
Thanks very much, Scott. Jess, do you want to take the question about multiple assessments? And then Leah, would you mind taking Neil's question that just came through after that?
All right, so as far as the multiple assessments goes, that's also kind of a two-part answer. If you've had an assessment before 3 years ago, so anything previous to July of 2020, then yes, you can get another one. Their systems, they're only set to look back for 3 years. And even with the programs, especially with Empower and Assisted Home Performance, you can reapply after 3 years. So if it was before 2020, then yes. If it was after 2020, I would have to look into that. It may be able to be run under the Residential Energy Audit Program, but I have to check in on that because we usually don't get that kind of situation. So, again, I would just, check in with me. I can run it through and see if they'll approve it for the Residential Energy Audit.
Thanks, Jess. Leah? So let's see, Leah, are you still with us? We might have lost Leah. No, Leah's still there. So we'll come back to Leah. I'm seeing a question.
Sorry, I couldn't get myself off mute.
No worries, go for it. And then we'll come to David's question.
Yeah, so he is asking if it's possible to do geothermal without a duct system, and it is. So there's a certain brand called, it's a Samsung, and it actually uses this about the same technology as an air source heat pump. It has what we would call the wall mount heads or the consoles or even the air handlers. And it uses essentially the same kind of thought process, kind of like a line set from each head that would go into a room, and it goes down to a unit, but it doesn't sit outside. So air source has an outdoor unit. Samsung has an indoor geo unit. Same concept though, you have a vertical loop field, horizontal loop field, but you can definitely use the same head system console system, and get geothermal into your house instead of having to go the air source route. So yes, for sure.
And
Give us a
actually,
call.
I can speak from my own experience because I have a hydronic or baseboard radiator system. In order to have air conditioning, that's what I have. Is I have units that are not dissimilar to the kinds of head units that an air source system would have, but they're hooked into my geothermal system. So the borders between these technologies are not always very firm. It really depends on the home and the situation, and that's why getting an assessment is really your first stop, because generalities only go so far. David asks, Delaware County in Andes. So I will say some things, and hopefully I'm remembering this correctly. If it's Andes for air source, I think that both NP and RICOR are servicing that area, or is it RICOR strictly? I'm trying to remember where we left that.
We do service that area.
Kevin, am I remembering this? Which way is it?
Technically, we service that area too. I've actually got a couple projects going on down there, but I don't know as if filtering leads through your process if we drew a line somewhere that would separate us. But technically that's just within our 2-hour range.
Okay. I mean, unfortunately, where we don't have coverage at this moment is with home performance with insulation and air sealing yet. I'm hoping that once RICOR goes through their certification process, that they'll be able to help folks in that area of Delaware County. But it's not official until Scott says so. I will say that Delaware County could be better served in the sense that there aren't a ton of qualified installers that service Delaware County, particularly that eastern sort of Catskill oriented part. It's my hope that with the new money coming in under the IRA, that might motivate some more local installers or closer installers to decide to take the plunge and get into the business of heat pumps and energy efficiency. But we'll see. I don't know if any of the partners have anything they'd like to add to that. Okay. Well, we've had a really active conversation here, even though it's been me reading stuff, but these have been very, very good questions. I just want to take a moment just to pause and see if there are any further questions from anybody on the line before we start to wrap up here. So while we're doing that, I do want to call attention to some information my team has dropped into the chat. The last link that just came, it would be really great if you took a minute right now while we're still on the line and click on that event evaluation sheet. It's really fast to fill it up. I see your question, Pat, and yours also, David. Also, if you wish to sign up for either community solar or for any of the technologies you've heard about today, that link was also posted by Alex. And so once for the community solar, you basically get put on a list and we'll contact you once we have new information. With the HeatSmart program, you basically tell us what technologies you want, where you live and so forth. And we pass that information on to our partners after double checking with you, because sometimes people forget that they said to do this. And then when they get called by the installer, they're like, who are you? Why are you calling me? So we double check on that, but then we do the handoff, and your chosen installer or installers will set up a time to have a conversation, and then go ahead with an assessment if that's what's desired and give you a quote and so forth. I'm not going to go in order here. David asked about a transcript. The chat, I believe, is saved as part of the recording. Can my team confirm or deny what I just said? Because I'm forgetting.
Yes, we can send you a copy of the chat for sure.
Yeah, so the link to the recording of the webinar will be sent out to everybody that registered through Eventbrite. and that'll be archived on our resource page as well. So then we have a question here. These have all gone just to me from Pat. I do have a Mitsubishi Mini Split, 3 years old, asking about servicing. I'm going to just throw this one out there. Who wants to take it? Rycor, NP, whoever gets there first.
I'll grab it. So essentially everything that is heating, cooling needs service. Our cars need service, our bodies need service. So I do recommend annual maintenance. The first and foremost thing is to be cleaning the filters. And that's probably something you want to do every 30 to 90 days based on where you're located. They just kind of withdraw from the front of the unit if you open the front door.
Yeah,
I know I'm
super
pretty
easy. I've done mine several times. It doesn't even require tools with most of these units.
Yeah, no tools required. And honestly, you could even Google it or YouTube it if you didn't know how to do it. But that is something that I recommend doing frequently, because the only clean filter is one you clean today. Tomorrow, it's 1 day dirty. Obviously, a week later, it's a week dirty. So it's what your threshold or your tolerance is to the dirtiness of the air in the house. I'm pretty well in tune to that, and I'll do mine very regularly every week or two. I have clients that will never do it until the unit stops working because of it. And that takes, 5 or 8 years for that to happen, to give you a reference. But there are other things that we should be doing on an annual maintenance. We should be checking and tightening all the electrical fittings. Electrical fittings tend to be dissimilar metals. A lot of times they're aluminum fittings with copper wire. They expand and contract at different rates. You can have a loose fitting cause a very big problem down the road, like a low voltage situation, which will create a high amperage situation and overheat something. So something that could have been fixed in a $99 service visit, or just kind of tuned up in that visit, could cost you $1,000 down the road. Other things that should happen is just checking the refrigerant charge in the way of checking temperatures. Because these units have such a little bit of refrigerant in them, you don't really want to check the pressures with gauges. You just want to check the temperatures. And if they're within the manufacturer's specification, you never want to hook gauges up to it. Every time you hook a gauge up to a system, you lose a little bit of refrigerant, which is not great environmentally, and it's also not great for your system. We're going to also want to just clean the coils. The fan motor inside, it has a blower wheel attached to it. That is what will blow the air across the space. The filter will do a great job of collecting 95% of that dust, but that other 5% will get impacted on the blower wheel. And just like any other knife, the wheel has these knife blades on them that cut the air, just like you're cutting butter. And the little bit of dust that gets built up on the edge of those knife blades that are cutting the air will kind of slow down the air transfer across the coil, lower your efficiency. So again, manufacturer does recommend a once-a-year maintenance, and so do I. I think it's good practice to maintain your equipment. Buy once, buy right, take care of it, and it will last you through the 20-year life expectancy that they're supposed to last.
So a lot of questions are just coming to me personally rather than to everyone. And we probably will have to wrap it up after this last round. Question: is a 200 amp service required for a heat pump?
You can do a house full of heat pumps with a 100 amp service. Do it all the time. So heat pumps tend to pull very, very little amperage. They're a lot of times less amp drawer than a traditional boiler with 4 or 5 circulators and a couple window units. So you can realize that a 100 amp service is plenty to do a full house solution.
That is definitely the case. I will say that depending on what your plans are for the future, in my own case, I got a recent hybrid plug-in vehicle and had to install an additional dryer hookup, which obviously doesn't directly pertain to what we're talking about. But as Scott has said, if you're just talking about the heat pump, no. But if you're looking at other kinds of upgrades, that might eventually be necessary depending on what else you already have on your service.
Yeah, agreed. If you're going to do solar, for example, you'll probably want to have a nice new service, 200 amp service, so you can building in the way of progress to an all electric home, electric water heater, electric stove, electric dryer, EV chargers, that kind of stuff. But to your point, just the heat pumps, 100 is more than enough.
So there's a question here, which I'm actually going to take an initial stab at, but I'll ask for backup from you, Scott, because I think Kevin has had to jump off. Is there a reason the average cost of air source heat pump is triple in our area to the national average? My suspicion is the figure you've seen lumps in cold climate heat pumps with non-cold climate heat pumps. And the non-cold climate heat pumps are not as pricey. They're just not as expensive to produce. Did I get that right, Scott? Is there more to it?
That is a big piece of it, Adam, for sure. And national is a big market, right? So I think about some of the early adopters of this technology, or even markets that these are manufactured in, Japan, for example. I have a friend that lives part of the year in Japan. And that's where Mitsubishi's are manufactured. Every single building structure in Japan has got a ductless heat pump in it. They make them right there in their hometown. It's kind of like buying fish at the shore, or buying a Mercedes in Germany. Mercedes, the high-end cars that we consider high-end here, they're taxi cabs in Germany. A Chevy car in Germany is the price of a Mercedes here. So it's supply and demand, and manufacturing and geographic things will play into it. There's also sometimes a little bit of greed in installers. I hate to say, but we tend to be a little bit proud of our labor in the U.S. So that could also drive the national average up. If you're talking about like more of a hyper local Hudson Valley versus Dutchess, Ulster, Sullivan, Orange, you'll see differences there as well. And there could be cost of operation differences. Usually the equipment will not vary in price across those types of markets. But nationally, there are some bigger factors that'll play in, as I previously mentioned. But get through prices.
The U.S. is a relatively late adopter of this technology, given the wealth that's present here. But for example, in New York State, it will be illegal to install new fossil fuel equipment starting January 2025 in new buildings, new construction. And so as this starts to take place across the country, and we start seeing the volume just ramp up and ramp up and ramp up, we're going to see prices, come down. But it's probably going to start with new construction, would be my guess. And so, it is ultimately supply and demand, but to the degree to which the federal and to some degree the state governments can incentivize or create rules that allow the manufacture and distribution and installation of these devices to happen more at scale, it's going to help with the price. So there's a question from David from Eli, and this is the last one we're going to take because we're a minute over. Is there any reason against going to heat pumps for off-grid folks? So presumably what David's talking about is having a solar array, possibly wind, I'm not sure, some battery storage. Is that a scenario that would work out with heat pumps?
I would say it's less than, I'll grab that. I would say it's less than ideal. It's certainly doable. Heat pumps are like any other electrical device. They like to have good, consistent power to them. If you have a really solid arrangement with your off-grid power supply and your solar, it's definitely doable. A very close friend of mine owns New York State Solar Farm. His home has a wonderful Tesla wall battery setup and solar on the roof. And he doesn't worry about that when he has no power in the winter, less sunlight. He doesn't use any power from Central Hudson. So put it that way. So it's certainly doable. A little bit more thought's going to be required if you're completely off grid and you have no ability to back the batteries up. But we are in a day and age where the technology exists to make that happen for sure.
Yeah, a lot of the questions are not about technology. They're about cost. They're about feasibility in particular circumstances. But yeah, it's really one of the reasons why our organization exists, and we're funded by the state largely, some degree by private foundations to do this, is that the US really needs to understand how these technologies work, act based on the facts, and start deploying stuff. Depending on who you ask, 3/4, 80% of what we need to be doing, we already have the technology for. And if we scale things, the prices will come down. So just to be respectful of everyone's time, I'm going to finish this up here. I want to thank all of our partners and my wonderful team for doing such a great job. And I also want to thank our guests for asking such a lot of great questions. I will tell you, we have had webinars where we're trying to fill up the time, and this was not one of those times. We really appreciate the questions. If there's something that came up that we didn't get to, you can email us at info@nynest.org, which I dropped in the chat earlier. We're easily found online at nynest.org, but if you know you want to get started with one of our partners, you know where to go. So thanks again to everyone, and have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.